Hey everyone, welcome back to Hidden Creek Connection. I just wanted to say thank you so much for tuning into our videos. I know there's a lot of videos out there that will help you with your wedding advice and tips and tricks. So thank you so much for choosing us and trusting me to help you with this really special day. So this video was a very requested one. We are going to talk about a first look. So for those of you who don't know what a first look is, that is where you do a private moment with the photographer to capture that first time that you see each other instead of waiting until the ceremony to see each other. So a first look is something that a lot of people are choosing to do nowadays, but it's not for everyone. So stay tuned and we will talk about the pros and cons of doing a first look. Okay, so to dive in a little bit deeper about describing a first look. So for those of you who have been to a wedding or seen any kind of wedding before, the bride will walk down the aisle and the groom is waiting for her at the front. That is typically the moment that they see each other for the first time that day, or at least in her wedding dress and all dolled up with everything. So now people are doing what's called a first look, where the bride will go up to the groom, a private moment before the ceremony. This is before anyone has even arrived that day. So usually about 2 hours before the ceremony. The bride will go up to the groom, he'll have his back to her, and she will tap him on the shoulder and he'll turn around and look at her. And then that way the photographer is getting that special reaction that y'all are sharing together face to face, close up. The purpose of doing a first look is so that way couples can get all the pictures done with their bridal party, the family, and with each other out of the way. That way after the ceremony, there's not an hour cocktail hour for your guests to just sit there wondering like, what's taking so long? Where are they at? Oh my gosh, they need to hurry up with these pictures. And then you're missing like an hour of fun at your party. So this way, if you've already done a first look, you just keep going straight into the cocktail hour, but you get to join. Now, a first look is not for everyone. So what are the pros and what are the cons and how do you figure out if it's right for you? So first, let's start with speaking to each other. Brides, you need to ask the groom. Groom, you need to ask the bride. First of all, are you comfortable with something like this? Some people want to be very traditional. And if you are a traditional couple, I'll go ahead and tell you this is not what you want to do. Tradition is for you to walk down the aisle and see each other right then in front of all your guests and your family. So if you're a traditional couple, do not do a first look. If you're okay with breaking tradition and you're just like, you know, this is our day, this is our thing, we're going to do what we want to do, then it's something that you can keep considering. So a first look is a deeply personal decision because that is such a personal moment. Either way that you do it, it's a very personal moment. So that's a decision that y'all need to make together. Don't let your photographer or your family or anyone tell you that you have to or that you can't do a first look. This is something that's very personal. And that is a moment that you will never get to redo. So make sure you think about it and you decide if it's right for you in your heart. Don't let anyone else tell you what to do. Okay, so a reason why you should do it is going to be timing. So we just talked a little bit about that, getting to actually join the cocktail hour. But timing also plays into sunset and lighting as a factor for your photographer. So say you want to have a 6 p.m. wedding ceremony, but sunset's at 6:30. Well, y'all, I'm going to tell you right now, you do not have time for pictures after that ceremony. It will be pitch black and you just can't do it. So in that case, you really, really need to do a first look. You're going to do the first look 2 hours before the ceremony. So that would be a really good time to make sure everything gets done. Then you have the ceremony and then everything's already done. So if it's dark outside, all well, you're done with your pictures. So lighting is going to play a huge factor into deciding if you should or should not do a first look. Make sure that you are paying attention to what time you've scheduled your ceremony and what time the sunset is, and make sure that you're allowing for at least a 30-minute ceremony and then at least an hour of pictures in good lighting if you choose not to do a first look. If you don't have that hour and a half of good lighting after the ceremony time, then you need to do a first look if it's okay with you. But I would highly recommend it. Another way, going the opposite direction, is if you're having an early ceremony. So I know a lot of like church weddings have to happen at 11 a.m. That's just the time frame that they give you. If you're doing 11 a.m. ceremony and you have to get hair and makeup done, doing a first look 2 hours before at 9 and then getting up super early to get hair and makeup done probably doesn't sound very appealing to you on a wedding day when you know you're going to be up kind of late, you're going to be talking to a lot of people, you're going to become exhausted. So if your wedding ceremony is that early, you probably don't want to do a first look just because that's going to take up a lot of early morning time, and since you have so much more time later in the day, that would probably be best just to wait. So also, by doing a first look, you have more time for more photos. So by doing that, you are going to get better shots. You're not going to feel rushed. You're not going to have everyone sitting there like bridesmaids and groomsmen being like, oh my gosh, we're ready to go inside, join the party. I want a drink, like hurry up. You know, people get really antsy and they want to go inside and join the party. So if you do it all before anything has ever started, then they're not in a rush. They're like, oh yeah, we have time. We can sit back, relax, take your time doing the pictures. We're good. You know, so that's something to consider as well as everyone's anticipation and rushing through it. So another big pro is going to be getting the jitters out of the way. So I've talked to some couples before who actually have really bad anxiety and stage fright. And so they were actually absolutely terrified about seeing each other for the first time in front of all their family and friends, just because they had so much like anxiety about people looking at them and they felt pressure about this moment. So they chose to do a first look. That way they could feel more comfortable with each other. They got the jitters out of the way because it's still a very like anticipated moment of seeing each other for the first time. But this way they didn't have all the anxiety of having each other looking and a million other people looking. It was just the two of them. That's the person you're in love with, that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. So it's totally fine just to go ahead and get those jitters out of the way by looking at each other for the first time in a little private moment. This also, they told me, really helped with her walking down the aisle looking at him because they were making eye contact, and since they had already seen each other that day, they kind of felt like more of a connection because they had just seen each other. So it was like, oh, okay, it's me and you in this, like, I'm good, anxiety, calm down, I know there's people watching, but focus on each other. So that really helped them get the jitters and the anxiety out of the way. So my last big pro for this is going to be privacy. I know myself, I tend to get very emotional in those kinds of moments. And so whenever you are doing a first look, you kind of have more privacy because it's just the two of you and your photographer, and you're not having the pressure of a lot of people watching you. So if you are going to become overly emotional and that is something that kind of embarrasses you, or you just want to be prepared and then have time to fix your makeup afterwards for the actual ceremony photos, then a first look's a really great idea. So that way you can do your first look, you can be as emotional as you want to, bawl like a baby, get it all out of the way, enjoy that moment together, hug, kiss, just share that time together, and then go fix your makeup, and then you can do the pretty ceremony photos. So that way you get both back from your photographer, you have the great emotion pictures, and then you have the pretty delicate ones as well. So let's get into the cons of doing a first look. One of the cons that I kind of mentioned earlier is that it's not traditional. To you, that might not matter. To some people, it does. So a con is that it's technically not traditional, so just consider that. Another thing is going to be that it actually puts more pressure on the groom to react. So whenever you are one-on-one with someone, and this is like, he knows that you spent all this time picking out your dress, doing your hair, doing your makeup. There's so much buildup for this day and for that moment. When you tap him on the shoulder and he turns around, he probably feels more pressure to give an over-the-top reaction. He knows that this is the one time that you are looking at him going, how are you about to react to me? Do I look beautiful? Do I look amazing? Do you hate it? Are you about to faint? Like, are you gonna cry? Are you just gonna stand there and be like, hey babe, you look good? Like, the guy probably feels a little bit more pressure in that moment to react. So that's something that you probably want to talk to him about and make sure he's comfortable with. And then another con is back to the whole timing thing. We kind of touched on it earlier, but just making sure that you're not doing it too early or too late, because the sun is going to be really, really harsh in the afternoon. So if you're doing like a 2 o'clock ceremony and then you decide to do a 12 o'clock first look, the sun is going to be super intense. And that might not be the best for your photos. It's going to really like wash you out a lot. It's going to hurt the photographer's angles and everything. So later at night, golden hour is actually the best time to do those photos. So just really take into account what time of the day your first look would be before deciding if you want to do one or not. So my last little con for you, and it's totally not even a big con, it's more of like if you care what other people think type thing, is whenever you go into your cocktail hour, guests are probably going to be expecting you to stay outside and take pictures instead of coming on inside for the grand entrance. So sometimes you might get a little backlash from the guest of like, oh, are you not doing pictures? Why are y'all not taking pictures together? And then you have to explain to everyone, we already did. But I mean, if that doesn't bother you and you don't mind telling the guests to mind their own business, then whatever, do what you want to do. So again, first look is a deeply personal decision. Make sure that y'all are communicating and talking about if this is something that you want to do together. I highly recommend it if you are having an evening ceremony, just that way you have enough time for those photos. But I will tell you the truth, I did not do one on my wedding day. So I actually had a 4 o'clock ceremony time, and I did not want to do pictures at 2 o'clock. I wanted to wait until later. And I did take that time away from my guest, which was fine with me, to get the sunset time photos. That was something I was willing to sacrifice, staying outside for cocktail hour to get these really good background, beautiful sky photos. So again, it's everyone's personal choice. That's totally something that is up to you. But if you want help deciding if a first look is good for you or not, always feel free to send me an email. My email is brett@hiddencreekevents.com, and I will definitely go over these points with you again, trying to help figure out what is right for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope this video helped y'all out. Also, be sure to look on like Pinterest and Google, and you can Google first looks and see if it's something that looks fun to you. Thank you so much for watching. Always be sure to subscribe and like the video to let us know that we are doing a good job. I'll see y'all next week.